pastor. Thank you to each and every one of you for loving me, because I love each and every one of you. See you in 2020, if not before. I love you.
Great job, Kevin White. Love you, man. Michael Gates. One more. If you'd like to just wave at me.
Well, most of y'all know that I was married before I started college. There were some benefits. We didn't have to repent as much. It was all legal. We had our first child after my first year there. I married into the church there, so I was part of the church and part of the college too. George Lee Glass still hates me. I know at a football game, we had the church school football game, and me, for those of you that know George Bates, because I was part of the church and part of the school, I refused to play. And so they put me as an ump. And game was tied. We were fixing to have to call it quits. Keith Shillette was the quarterback. Darrell Johns was the running back. He could run. I looked across the line, and George Lee was offsides. So I said, George Lee, step back 2 steps. You're offsides. And he said, I ain't offsides. I said, you are too. I said, George, is he offsides or not? And he said, yeah, he's offsides. And George said, hey, man, just step back a couple steps. Well, right then, Shillette hiked the ball, pitched it back to Darrell Johns. He ran it in for the touchdown. They would have won the game, except Jeff. We had to call it back. And the game ended a tie. In fact, I believe that was maybe one of the last games Brother Kraft let us have. Larry Sims, yes. I just wanted to put in a plug for, I love the music people, always did. I'm not a music person. I've been pastoring ever since I left JCM. It's been a long time. And I stayed in contact with some of the other pastors and ministers that have been part of us. And I guess it's okay, Joel, but I got to thinking recently, if we actually totaled up, I'm pastoring the 6th church that my wife and I have pastored since we left JCM. And if we totaled up, Brother Kraft, everybody that is in church today because of the theology majors that came through that college, I don't believe you're going to have a crown big enough for all those jewels that are going to be there. I mean, we are literally talking to all the guys, we are literally talking about thousands upon thousands of people that are in church today. And listen, I'm still Acts 2:38 all the way, but you're my friends. I don't judge anybody. God didn't put me here as a judge of anybody. Okay? It's a great big world out there, and we love each and every one of you. And let's get back together as soon as we can. I've suggested a few things, Ron. So there.
Thank you, Michael. One last one, short one. And it's everybody's prerogative. Everybody's right to be absolutely wrong, wherever they're at in their theology. I'm going to introduce the introducer. Married to the oldest daughter, to TL, and to Thomas Lynn Craft and Mary Craft was Sherry Craft. And this Rico Suave kind of guy comes stepping into the life, great preacher, Mark Grisham. He is well-traveled, a well-read gentleman. And if you don't know him, it's hard not to get to know him because he knows so much about a lot of different things. And he's been an instructor at the college and pastor team at the church and all-around cool guy. Mark Grisham.
It was great to hear these testimonies this morning. Last night was wonderful. One thing you learn about leadership is do what you're asked to do. So I'm going to do what I was asked to do. And it's a great honor to officially introduce President T.L. Craft to you today. Obviously, my perspective has been extraordinarily blessed and wonderful. Remember distinctly going down Robinson Extension. Some of you remember Robinson Road, but probably never got on Robinson Extension because Brother Craft's mother lived right off Robinson Extension by the old Hines General Hospital where Sandra K. Rooks was working when she was a student as a nurse there at Hines General. But anyway, we were going down that road one day, and I was not yet a member of the family. Actually, we're talking over 40 years ago at this juncture, if you got a timeline going here. Brother Craft, he's driving his blue Lincoln, and he turned sharply into the hospital, and he stopped, and he looked at me with that half grin we've all seen, and he said, you know, they're offering to allow me to purchase the assets of PBI for a little over $20,000. And there was a long pause, and I'd like for you to think about that because we know it ended up costing him multiplied. Now with the perspective of a grandfather and a man who's been preaching 45 years, I know how much it cost. I know how much it truly exacted from him physically, emotionally, financially, relationally. The dreams that he set aside, he could have built a dome as big as the Colosseum. But instead, he chose to invest in ministry. I have always loathed the reference that I hear far too often about my ministry and my work and but Brother Craft has truly given his life for other people's ministry. If you go to where he was born, and we've been there obviously, you have to be going there. When you're there, and you didn't get there accidentally. It's literally at the end of the road. But he came out of that obscurity, and the Lord chose him to affect all of our lives in a magnificent, lasting, eternal, powerful way. Wow. One of his dear lifelong friends who was raised in the Alexandria church with Mary Francis, my mother in love, was in Jackson a few months ago, Carl McKellar. And Brother McKellar was telling me about this after he left Jackson, and they had played golf 4 or 5 days, and he said, Mark, he said, we were going through a busy intersection in Jackson. He said Brother Kraft was trying to get through the traffic, and he's trying to navigate where he was going. And he said he turned right straight into, in the wrong way. And he said people were coming at us. And he said, Brother McCullough said, I told him, I said, you can't do that. And he said, Brother Kraft stopped with all that traffic. And he said, yes, I can, but I won't. Now, all the singers took 30 seconds last night. So I'm going to say this. Brother Kraft has given us a model and a paradigm for leadership. Your ministry will ultimately be designed by what you won't do. I stop right here. You can do anything. Brother Kraft proved that. Tommy Lynn Kraft proved you can do it. He proved you can do it. Have you ever borrowed $1 million for someone else's ministry? I'm asking you a question, yes or no? Stand up if you've borrowed $1 million for someone else's ministry. Get on your feet right now. We'll build a statue out here in front of the Opera Land. Brother Kraft has. Some of you don't know this. Brother Kraft was the #1 handball player in the state of Mississippi. Some of you don't know that. Did you hear what I said? A star quarterback from Ole Miss was his dearest friend in Jackson in the community for many years. And they would all tell me, said, your father-in-law, he is the best handball player in our state. Said he could go to Indianapolis, he could go to Georgia, he could go to Texas, he could go to New California and whip anybody's butt. And some of us came up in the racquetball era. I know Jeff did. And I've watched Brother Kraft make shredded tuna out of so many strong, capable men, 20 years his junior. Because he would just, in his mind, you don't understand. He knows every angle of that court. If a ball hits within 3 inches of here, he knows it's going to land over here. And that's the way he has led his life. He's stayed fit. He's kept his mind clear and strong. And he reads more books than anybody in this room. I took him the first time he went on a ski slope. And he came right down the slope. 3 years later, no exaggeration, he wanted to go ski. It was during the Christmas holidays. He was weary of all the things that were going on and all the pressures of leadership. And he said, I'm leaving. And some of the family couldn't go. And he said, I said I'm leaving. And he went on a ski vacation by himself in his 50s. We called him up between Christmas and New Year's. Jeff, he's up there. He said,